Hi there, we're here with Jeffrey Harmon. He's the Chief Content Officer for Angel. The studio has been putting out a lot of movies and television shows, as a matter of fact, including Sketch, which we're going to be talking a little bit about today. Be sure, if you like this video, if you like the other stuff that you've seen here, be sure to like, comment, share, subscribe. We'd love to have your engagement. Jeff, thank you so much for being here. Really, really happy that you had a couple of minutes to join us. Man, Angel has been so busy. How many movies are you releasing in 2025?
In theaters, we're releasing 8 movies.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, yeah, Eh,
That's a lot.
yeah. It's significant. And then we'll also be releasing several TV series, and we release at least there's at least new stuff coming to streaming every single week right now.
Wow. Wow. So let me ask you, my first question really is, when you're talking about that type of content, obviously you're doing a lot of different things with the movies and television shows that you're distributing. What do you typically look for in a movie or a television show? What makes it a good Angel product?
So we're focused on the values world, the values audience,
Hmm.
values based. And so that includes a broad swath of types of entertainment. It's not genre specific, but what we look for is we have one gatekeeping principle. It has to amplify light. And by amplify light, we define that as anything that's true, honest, noble, just, authentic, lovely, admirable, and excellent, which is from, Philippians.
Yeah.
And
Yep. Philippians 4:8.
yeah, and so that is the definition of light to us. Actually, the concept of amplifying light came after Philippians 4:8. It just takes too long to say it. So we said maybe we'll just try to shorten that and say it's amplifying light. And Philippians 4:8 is a values-based world, right? It's not specific to any religion. It's not specific to any group of people. It's something that the whole world can say, I can embrace, or most of the world can say they can embrace those principles. And so
Hmm.
we're looking at the values audience with this concept of Philippians 4:8, and that's what we look for. And that can include a lot. And so the way we started this company is we just said, as founders, and I have 6 kids, my brothers have a lot of kids, and we just said, we need something for our kids. We need something for our families, what we want in our home. And that doesn't, I mean, we love all types of, not all types, but most types of content, most types of movies, if they don't
Most
have,
types of
yeah,
stories.
most types of stories, as long as they fit our values in the end, right? And so
Yeah.
that's what we're looking for.
Yeah. So it's interesting that you brought up Philippians 4:8 right off the bat, because that's actually sort of a driving message for Plugged In as well. I mean, that's sort of what we are encouraging people to do,
Yep.
to engage with
And I've
whatever is
I've
true,
used
whatever is
Plugged In ever
beautiful.
since I was a kid to figure, or yeah, since I was,
Really?
yeah, way back in the day, we'd always look up Plugged In reviews to figure out if we can go watch the movie. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Hopefully you weren't reading my reviews when you were a kid,
I
but who
I don't
knows?
know.
Who
I don't
knows?
know. I never looked at the names of the authors.
So, but it is interesting, because when you think about Paul, when he was writing those words, the world that he was living in was not exactly a pure, beautiful, just world. He
Hmm.
was dealing with a lot of brokenness within that world, but he was encouraging his believers, his followers, to actually find sort of that truth and beauty within that broken world, within
Hmm.
that brokenness. Would you say? Would that be a fair
I
takeaway?
think so. I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Which brings us a little bit to Sketch, right?
Okay.
I
Yeah.
know that you've probably heard from some folks who, and I know that I've heard from some parents who thought, "Oh my goodness, this movie, it deals with some really heavy issues. This movie feels really scary." I had a mom write in who said that she actually had to take her 9-year-olds out because it was just too much for them.
Hmm.
Tell me a little bit about kind of how you respond to parents who might have been surprised at the messages you found in Sketch, or the kind of horror-esque type of feel that the
Yeah,
movie had.
it's almost like a horror parody, in some ways. It's a
Yeah,
kids horror feel.
yeah,
We actually didn't consider it a horror movie, but there's a group of people who say this feels like a horror movie to them, and
yeah.
so we've actually adopted that since they said that. We now put out like the number one kids horror movie because your brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room, and that there's a group of people who are saying it's like a horror movie because it has these little elements of like Jurassic Park. Meaning, we marketed this primarily as Jurassic Park meets Inside Out.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so it's got this element of scary, and um what I usually say is this is something that G.K. Chesterton and C.S. Lewis and J.R. Tolkien dealt with a lot, which is they had scary stories. They had dragons. They had wizardry, and they had all these types of things going on inside their kind of parable stories that they wanted as Christians to teach good and evil and teach Christian principles and teach values to their children. And so similar to that, the director of Sketch, he's having to deal with a lot of these same kind of responses where G.K. Chesterton said, and I'll paraphrase it, he said, um, kids don't need fairy tales to tell them dragons exist. They know dragons exist. They need fairy tales to tell them dragons can be defeated.
Mm,
And
yeah.
that's the way we look at that. If you've got a demon, like there's a crayon demon inside of Sketch. There's this purple crayon demon. I think the director calls her Dark Amber because she's kind of the
Yeah.
dark side of this girl's world. She represents her
And she is legitimately scary. Yeah.
legitimately scary. Yeah, it's a legitimately scary character, and this demonic crayon is alive and is a legitimately scary character. And so the to me as a dad, and I think this is the way the Angel Guild sees it, which I'll explain in a second, is I want that character to be evil. If it's evil, I want to see it as evil and I want to see it defeated. That's what I want to see in a story. I'm okay with showing the demon as long as it gets defeated, right? And
Yeah.
that it can be defeated. And in this case, it's more of a parable. It's not explicitly like teaching any specific religious view, but it's a parable about how to defeat demons from trauma in your life. And in this case, they've lost their mom. And the reason why I say the guild is because we don't actually make the decisions. We don't get to make the decisions on all the movies that come into Angel. I can't take a
Mm,
movie into Angel Studios unless the Angel Guild passes the movie. And so what we've done totally different is Angel Studios is a community of 1.5 million people and growing very, very quickly. In December, it was only 500,000 people that believe in this concept of amplifying light and Philippians 4:8, and they come together, and as a group we fund the movies that we want to see in theaters and the movies we want to see streaming, and we pick the movies as a group. And so as a guild member, you get a vote on every single movie that comes into Angel Studios, and you say whether or not it amplifies light. So Sketch was voted on by the guild, and the first time it failed, actually. It had
oh, that's
and then
interesting.
they went through and removed over 30 instances of what the audience considered the Lord's name in vain, and I considered that as well. They removed 30 instances of misuses of God's name, and then it succeeded. You have to score a 70 or above in the guild. It started out, it scored below 70. Then it jumped a whole bunch when they removed all of the instances of the Lord's name in vain and a little bit of other language. And then it jumped up to an 87 in the guild where it scored high enough that we said, let's take this to theaters. But that was
Yeah.
because of an
Yeah.
edit based on the feedback from our guild members who were saying we didn't like it this way. And
So
the
this is
director went in and changed it.
Yeah, this is really fascinating to me because I'm trying to think about the logistics of actually having 1.5 million guild members watching all of these movies. Do they watch every single movie that comes through Angel Studios?
I,
Is that just sort of the
not
process?
1.5 million people, though, a sample of those 1.5. So, like, if you go into the
Oh,
guild right
gotcha.
now, there's probably 25 movies to vote on,
Wow.
right? There's 25 different
Wow.
titles submitted, and some of
Mm-hmm.
them are from very famous filmmakers, and some of them are from nobodies. And sometimes the very famous filmmakers crash and burn, and sometimes they succeed, and then other times the nobodies succeed. And but
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
probably around 95% of them don't make it. 95% of the movies submitted, they either get voted out because they don't amplify light, or they get voted out because they're not a good story. And if you'll notice, one of the things we see really interesting is that it's really hard to get a films to pass, because they have to be great stories, and it's not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily about um, whether, like, Sketch is a perfect example. Sketch passed. 87 is a really high score once they, because the storyline is really strong. So when the guild votes, they don't. We are seeing movies like Sketch. We're seeing movies like King of Kings pass. Right, totally different movies, but they're
Yeah.
movies that these families want. Now, there's a subset that says, I didn't want that. This is not what I wanted. And so, what we're building out are guardrails. And the first guardrail is Philippians 4:8, amplify light. The second guardrail is, we're trying to, and this has turned out to be more challenging than we thought, but we're trying to say, we don't accept the Lord's name in vain inside of our movies. That's the one word.
Mm-hmm.
The third commandment is the one that we don't accept. Now, it turns out there's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of interpretation of what that means, and so we're trying to figure out a
Yes.
systematic way to do that. And I hope people have patience with us as we figure it out. But growing up, we, like, our family, we did not use God's name almost at all, unless it was in
Yeah.
prayer, and because we believe very strongly, and maybe we come from a slightly more Puritan background, but we believe very strongly in that, and so we say that's one that has been, we're just not going to have on the platform as founders. That's our guiding rule. Now, it could take us a while to figure out how to implement that, because, like, on Sketch, I noticed that PluggedIn said two misuses of the Lord's name, but the director told
Mm-hmm.
me, no, these are the ones that are prayer, and the other ones are
Yeah.
not. And he's a Christian, and I was like, and Tony Hale was like, yeah, this is the way I pray in my own personal life. And I was like, I
Yeah.
don't know,
Yeah.
I want, and and
It's so tricky,
it
right?
is
Yeah, because
tricky.
I know that when we sort of go through that as plugged in reviewers, we are paying very close attention. So how is this used? And we know that sometimes the Lord's name can be used. There are a lot of different interpretations, right?
That's right. Yeah. So the Lord's
So
Lord's name in vain. Our goal is, there's three hard rules that even if the guild voted for it, we wouldn't allow it. One is third commandment, Lord's name in vain. That one's turning out to be a little trickier than we thought. We're building some systems that we hope will come out over the next months to help the guild help us decide what counts as the Lord's name in vain. So the wisdom of the
yeah,
guild.
yeah,
Number two is no nudity. There will never be nudity on Angel Studios. And number three is no sex acts on screen. That you if
feels like good rules to me.
Yeah, other streamers can do that stuff. That's fine. They can go do it, but we're not going to do it. This is going to be a place where those
Yeah.
don't exist. And then everything else is defined by just Philippians 4:8, and how people vote on what amplifies light and what is great, excellent entertainment.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. It is really interesting that it's sort of done by this community, this guild. Do
Yes.
you have any say in that at all? I mean, like, if you actually said, I don't agree with the guild in this, like, either you think this movie is not appropriate, or
Mhm.
I love this movie, I don't care what the guild says, we need to do something with this.
So the first one, we can decide, and it's based on scheduling, time, what our team has passion for, what we take to theaters, because we put a lot of money into ones that we take to theaters. So the guild has to approve it, and we have to approve it. For streaming,
Mm-hmm.
it's less strict on that front. But from the other side,
Mm.
the way you need to look at the guild is they have an absolute veto. I cannot,
Mm.
as the co-founder of this company, I cannot override you as a guild member. I cannot
Mm-hmm.
override and take a movie that the guild said no to. And
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
remember the first time Sketch went through, I was like, oh, this one may not pass. Um, And then they made all those changes, and it passed. And
Yeah.
we decided, like, I love the movie. I think the movie's phenomenal. Um, and I know that there's a group of people who are very angry. And if they're angry about the demons, I explain it. And then if they don't agree, they don't agree. And the guild disagrees with them as a whole, being it scored an 87. But but if they're angry about it because they didn't understand what they were taking their kids to, that I have a lot of
Hmm.
empathy for, because I would be very upset about that too. And I think we can do better on that front. And I've made apologies about this. Is if you took your kid to sketch because you didn't realize what it was, and you had to walk out of the theater because it was too scary for a little kid, because um, then we're gonna refund you, and we're sorry that that happened. One thing we implemented, because the rating came in PG for the movie, and so we said, well, there's going to be some people who um, will think that PG is the new G, and they're just going to show up, and they don't remember that Goonies is a pretty scary movie, and there's a lot of PG movies that are really scary.
Jaws.
Yeah,
Jaws is PG.
yeah, yeah. So there's movies, and even after the PG-13 rating came into place, there's a lot of PG movies that are very scary. Jumanji,
Yeah.
um, and
Hmm.
so you I have empathy for that. And so I thought, well, what we need to implement, and apparently we didn't do it well enough, was a rating system where the guild votes. After you vote on the movie, you say, what is the youngest age you would think is that this movie is appropriate for? And then every guild member can
Mm.
cast a vote, and then you average out those votes, kind of like Common Sense Media does. And then you have an
Right.
age rank, and the
We
age
won't
rank,
talk about them.
yeah, the age rank. Oh yeah, sorry, I use Plugged In way more than Common Sense. Common Sense is, every once in a while I look at things and I'm like, that just doesn't make sense to me. Um, but so I Plugged In's my go-to spot. It has been for years. I'm not making that
No
up.
worries. No worries.
Yeah, but but basically an age rank from the guild, where where the guild says, what age do you think this is appropriate for? And we got a sample, and it was at the very end of the voting process that we implemented that, and we got a sample, and it said eight plus. And so we said, okay, let's stick that in. Let's make sure it says 8+. A lot of people didn't notice that. They didn't see it. So on future ones, we're going to take the trailers. We're actually going to put our age rank right next to PG-13, or right next to PG, or right next to
Oh,
G,
interesting.
and have the guild age recommendation, so that people are more aware next time, because we don't want parents
Yeah.
bringing kids to something that they don't feel pleased about.
Yeah, yeah, and let me speak to that for a bit, because I think that is always something that Plugged In, of course, always tries to prevent. We always try to give our parents exactly what they need to make a really strong decision for their
Yes. Yep.
kids. But the thing is, parents are going to be surprised every once in a while, and I think that's an important it's an important reality that parents need to be aware of, that sometimes their kids are going to be seeing things and they weren't expecting what they were exposed to. They might just need to talk through it. And
Yep.
I would always, always, always encourage parents to engage with their kids, to talk with their kids, because when you're dealing with movies like Sketch, there's a lot of really great conversations that can come from even some of the movie's more difficult
Yeah,
parts, right?
I just got a text message from a large influencer, and he just said, I watched it with my kids. I have one kid that's almost doesn't talk, never expresses his feelings, and they're trying to figure out how to get him to express his feelings. And he said he never draws, he never journals, he never does anything like that. And he's like, and he sent me a photo of a picture that he had drawn that was a little bit scary, but he had watched Sketch, and he was just like, I am thrilled to see him putting out some emotions. And he said, we're now having discussions
Yeah,
about his drawing. And
yeah,
this is a Christian guy, and he was just saying how grateful he was that Sketch got through. I think it was to like a 5 or 6 year old, so on the younger side, but it got through to them in a way that helped him be a
yeah,
better parent.
yeah. Yeah, well, and that's really the joy that you have sometimes with telling these stories, even more difficult stories, is that they do
Hmm.
open up unusual forms of
Yeah,
conversation. Um,
when I watched sketch with my kids, because I've got all my kids are under 13. I've got 6 kids under 13. And as my girls are getting scared, I just said, okay, nobody dies. Nobody dies. Just to get them through it. And then by the end they loved it, right? But during those scary
yeah,
moments, they're yeah.
yeah, yeah. So as you go forward, clearly you've already talked about some of the changes, your strategies that you're going to be implementing. Um, in my opinion, being this is the type of movie that I would have really loved when I was 8 years old. I'll be
Yes.
honest with you.
Yeah, me too.
The 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 elements of it, the funniness of it, the scariness of it,
Yeah.
it was a really, really, just in terms of pure movie making, a really strong film.
Yep.
Is this an area that you want to continue to push envelopes with Angel in terms of maybe stuff that the typical Angel audience wouldn't necessarily see as an Angel product, but pushing out into the realm as long as it fits within sort of that wheelhouse of being light to the world?
Yes. Yes. We're going to be I don't know exactly where everything is going to go, but I do know that our audience is very focused on their family values. They're very focused on the guild. These 1.5 million people are people that are the most like us. And
Yeah,
we're going to have a bet. Like a lot of people said, well, this isn't a Christian. It doesn't have Jesus in the movie. And our answer to them is, well, we actually started out with dry bar comedy, which is totally like secular. And then
yeah,
we did Tuttle Twins, which is like has a lot of references
yeah,
to freedom of religion. It's an economics teaching thing, but it's like
yeah,
more like Magic School Bus. And then we did The Chosen,
yeah,
and it worked with Dallas on The Chosen. But the faith and Christian side is a is something that we've done better than anybody else out there for the last decade. And we're going to continue to do those really, really well. But we're also going to stick with our roots, which is simply values based. We want great entertainment.
yeah.
And one of our executives, he's an evangelical, Jared Geezy, he was at a meeting with some pastors and they were talking about our model and they were like, well, why don't you have more Christian stuff in it? And he's like, we do a lot of great Christian stuff. And he's like, but you got to understand, he's like, let's reread Philippians 4:8. Read it. True, honest, noble, just, authentic, lovely, admirable, and excellent. He's like, I don't see even evangelism inside that list. He's like, we're not trying to preach. We're trying to build excellent
Mm.
entertainment for your family that teaches them values. But they're sometimes more parable and they're more um does that make sense? It's not a church.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's it's a system for helping us have great entertainment that our kids are going to love, that we're going to love, and it's going to bat higher than anything else out there. But that doesn't mean that it's not going to disappoint every once in a while. I see stuff go through the guild that I feel disappointed feels too much like Hallmark or um it's fine. I'm fine with it. I'm just saying I have my own personal views
No,
that the guild doesn't
I
agree
hear
with.
that.
I don't love Hallmark, but there's a lot of Hallmark type stuff that passes the guild. And it's very
And there are
popular.
people who love it.
They love
Right,
it.
right.
And but for me, I want stuff like sketch minus a little bit of language. I wish I had a little less language. And I do want to tell you, the one thing that we just announced is that we are, when Sketch comes to streaming, you will have the option to turn on a parental control that just shuts the language off. It will skip all the
Wow.
language in the movie so you have the option before you start on your TV or before you start on your phone or whatever, you'll be able to just pick the language, the skipping track, which skips the language.
Let me ask you, is
We're going to
that
be
for
doing that across
every.
everything eventually, to where you have a clean
Okay.
because a lot of people were like they said Sketch has way too much language, but we didn't get this complaint with Last Rodeo, and Last Rodeo actually has more language than Sketch, and it's the
Yeah.
exact same words, and more of it. And a kid is saying it in Last Rodeo, and it's adults saying it in Sketch. And so we were a little confused. But I think what they were complaining about is the feeling they had. It was a little bit, it's scary. The movie's scary,
Yeah.
and so they
Yeah.
were complaining
Well,
about
and
that. So we just wanted to
yeah,
just make it possible. Like
exactly.
if the guild didn't get it right for you, and there's too much language, just pick the no language track, the skipping.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. So we're short on time, but I did want to ask you, just because I know there's going to be a lot of viewers who are curious, how do you get involved with the Angel Guild? What would be the best way to people could get involved with
If you
that?
just go to angel.com and then click to sign
Hmm.
up for the guild, you can join the guild. And there's three different options. You have one option, which is ad based, where you can just join the guild. It's like $12 a month. You have an $18 a month that's ad free. You get a vote in all these. You get a vote for the movies. And then there's a third one, which is a premium one, which is $20 a month. And that one has free movie tickets to every single movie. So every time a movie goes to theaters, you get 2 movie tickets to go to that movie and support that filmmaker in theaters, which is a $20 a month one. It's an extra $2 a month for free movie tickets. And we have a system that you just check out with your movie tickets like a movie pass. And any Angel movie you get
Hmm.
2 movie tickets to.
All right. All right. Hey, thank you so much, Jeff. Really appreciate your time.
Mhm.
Best of luck to you.
Thank you.